Welcome to another episode of Practical Pam. My guest today is Giuliano. Mark will be talking to us about great leadership qualities. Mark worked for the FBI for 28 years and retired as the Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Director. Some of his experience includes being the lead intelligence officer and overseeing the FBI's counterterrorism efforts. He's now a chief officer for a global firm. So I'm actually really excited to have you here. It's such an honor. Your experience is so unique, working both in public and private sector. You've clearly worked with government officials, military, and currently in the private sector with the likes of CEOs. So how about we start off by you talking to us about maybe a fun fact or something interesting about you that we wouldn't just expect.
Fun fact, so maybe something that people find interesting is I grew up as the oldest of 9 children.
9, wow.
And there's a 20-year difference between myself and my baby sister.
Oh, wow. That's definitely very interesting. And then you have kids yourselves who are probably not that much age difference from the youngest, right? Sibling?
Right, yep.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's get right into the gems of this conversation. Leadership. So what is it that if someone's watching, and they're thinking, what are the main qualities that make a great leader?
So I think there's a whole bunch of things. I think first of all, when you think about leadership, there are different styles of leadership. So one style doesn't necessarily trump another.
Yeah.
But there are some qualities that I have found over the years really make a difference, right? And I think good leaders have the ability to articulate a vision, a strategy for their company, for their organization. They're able to get people behind it, to align behind it, and they're able to execute. And so I've seen a lot of leaders who can do 1 or 2, but the best can do 3, all 3.
Okay.
From a quality perspective, like what are the characteristics that make up good leaders? I think there's several that come to mind. I think number 1, good leaders put the organization, the country, the company's vision and their people first, and they put themselves second. And so to me, that is the number 1 trait of a good leader. They put themselves last, they put the mission of the organization and their people first.
Yeah.
I think good leaders surround themselves with people who think differently than themselves.
Yeah.
So really talking about diversity of thought. And so it's not good enough just to have people around you that think differently, but actually good leaders promote an atmosphere that allows people to voice their opinion.
Right, so you have different ideas, different thoughts, but you actually feel like you can actually share those thoughts too.
Right, you're actually encouraged to share those thoughts,
okay.
which is different, right?
Yeah,
than
right.
Just feeling like you can.
You feel
right?
like you can, but you're actually encouraged to.
Right.
Yeah.
Good leaders that I've seen over the years are really good listeners. And so that means being able to listen to folks at all levels of the organization. Good leaders never stop learning, and so it's an important trait. They learn every day.
Yeah.
And I think I found that most good leaders, quite honestly, are humble, which you wouldn't think working with good leaders in the special forces or the military or the CIA or the FBI or even a CEO. But the best leaders I've seen actually are humble, but they hold people accountable and they hold themselves accountable. So they have very high standards, but they themselves are fairly humble people.
Assume a certain type of personality is default a leader, and then certain personalities are probably not fit to be a leader. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
So I have seen and worked for and worked with leaders with very, very different styles, but still very effective.
Okay.
And I think that's really important, right? If you happen to have a certain style, I think the best leaders understand where they're strong and where they're weak.
Yep.
They know their weaknesses and they know their strengths. They focus on their strengths, but they also surround themselves and their team with people who might be good at where they may not be strong.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. And for somebody who's probably thinking about, okay, how do I prepare myself to be a good leader? What would you recommend?
So maybe there's a couple things. Take your time. So I find that young people tend to really want to move very quickly through an organization. There's nothing like experience. In a lot of ways, you're building your brand in any organization. So we talk about marketing, we talk about brands that a company has or that a division has. You yourself also have a brand, and you're building it every day. So be thoughtful. Give yourself an opportunity to experience different things. So I've seen the best senior leaders have come up through an organization but have held positions in very different places within the organization. So being diverse. I think also being willing to ask for feedback. So it makes a good leader. Good leaders ask for feedback and they're willing to take it. But as a young person, ask for feedback. How am I doing, right? But also be willing to take it, right? So oftentimes you'll find people who say, give me feedback, but then
they're not.
They really don't want to hear it, right?
Take it very personally.
So I'd say take your time, really stretch yourself. Don't go after the next bright, shiny object. Remember, you're always building your brand. And that is building your brand within an organization, no matter how big it is. People ask how that person does. How is that person? So I think I think building a brand, asking for feedback, constantly learning. You never stop learning. So always trying to continue to improve yourself. I think the last thing, and I think where people make the biggest mistake when they go from being a individual contributor to, say, in a management role, is people don't realize how important the soft skills become. So we'll focus on getting that next certification or an MBA or that, and not that there's anything wrong with that, you should do that. But I have found that as you become a leader and the more you move to a position of leading people, the more your soft skills are important. The way you listen, the way you talk to people, your EQ, your emotional IQ, those are really more and more important than your technical skills. And the higher you get, your technical skills, not that they aren't important, they become less important. And your soft skills, your ability to navigate the organization, become more important.
Because you're really more so trying to be an influencer at that point.
That's
too,
exactly
right.
You're trying to help your folks be successful.
And then you're delegating, so the technical skills are not really as important because you actually are hiring the right people, working with the right people who can fill in that gap.
Exactly, right? And so I think that's really important, and that feedback loop on both sides, I think, is really important as you go. And then communication, right? Communication as a leader, communication skills as you're becoming a leader, I think are super, super important. And that's two-way, right? Listening and being able to communicate.
And articulate a vision and get people on board.
Right.
So let's talk about some lessons that you've learned, maybe from observing other leaders, and maybe even personally for yourself. Have you made any mistakes along the way, lessons learned from that, or some great wins that you didn't expect?
Tons of mistakes, right? Tons of mistakes. I think that's, if I had some advice, is you're gonna fall, right? You're gonna get knocked down. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. I think sometimes people who are good leaders or who could be in a leadership role never move into that area because they are afraid to make a mistake, right? You are going to make a mistake.
So what made you realize that? Were you ever uncomfortable with?
Always.
Did you hold yourself back from fear of making?
There were times when I wouldn't step into a certain difficult situation because I was afraid to fail, but I had people around me who encouraged me to do so. And then when I did make a mistake, I had people who would say, dust yourself off and get back into the ring. But don't make the same mistake twice, right? And so it really is learning from those mistakes, and it is being genuine about asking for feedback and being willing to accept it. And I also think there are times when people could go into roles that stretch them, but they're afraid to put in for it because they're afraid to actually feel and it's really not a defeat, but sometimes in your mind it is. If I didn't get the job, right, then it means that I'm not good, I'm not qualified.
Right.
I feel like, and I've learned that if there's something out there that you think you can do, if you're not even sure that you think you're qualified, right?
Yeah.
You should put in for it anyway.
Yeah.
And take an opportunity to stretch yourself.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about how did you actually navigate failure? How does someone get past that wall?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not easy. I think the first thing you tend to do is you tend to be very reflective, and it can get you down, right? So I think the first thing to do is you need to realize that it's part of life, which is when you're in the thick of it, is hard to remember, right?
Yes, yeah.
I think the second thing to do is to go back and ask yourself, what could you have done differently? And ask somebody else what you could have done differently, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the reflection. I think good leaders, and the military does it great, right? They always go back and do a kind of a introspective look at after a mission, what went well, what didn't. I think the same thing, good CEOs go back and look at some of the decisions they made. But as people coming up, and whether it's in a project or something they're assigned to, if it doesn't go right, I think the first thing you need to do is just ask yourself why. Ask yourself if you could have done something differently, but also get some feedback from those around you and say, hey, if I had to do this again, any idea of what I could have done differently to make this work better? And then try to take those things that you found and use them the next time and see if you have a different outcome.
That's really good. I know personally, one of the things I do, I'm one of those reflectors, and I mean, a week later I'll still be thinking about what I could have done differently, but still get stuck in that moment. So I like what you said about taking those things that you got from the feedback and then focusing on those things and literally taking it as currency that you now have to apply the next time you have to, go through the same transaction, another project or whatever it is, and focus on that,
Because you could kill yourself kind of reflecting, right? At some point you got to say, okay, what's past is past, I've learned from it, but really you want to be future focused.
Right, and say, oh, here's the nuggets I got from it, let me use these next time.
Exactly.
Perfect. What is your experience with bad leadership? And of course, you can learn from good and the bad too.
Yeah, so unfortunately I have also worked for a number of bad leaders, and I think there is as much to learn from a bad leader than it is from a good leader. Right? You need to think about what you would do differently there. And so I think a couple of things that I've seen is when bad leaders take credit for the good of the unit, and when things go bad, they actually are looking for somebody to blame.
Wow,
Good leaders give credit to their teams, and when things go wrong, they step up and they take ownership. I think the other thing that I've seen that I think is a fatal flaw in leaders is when they say they have diversity of thought or they want a diverse team, and they might even have a diverse team. They might even have people that think differently than them, but they do not promote an atmosphere where people are allowed to voice their opinion.
Wow.
And so they stifle that diversity of thought. So if somebody challenges something that goes on in a meeting, or they will cut the guy or gal's legs that will shut them down in public, which embarrasses them. But it also stifles the environment of being able to have a safe place to be able to speak up.
Right. No one wants to be humiliated or embarrassed.
Exactly right.
So even if you have a great idea, you're just probably not going to share just because of the fear of the consequences.
And as a leader, it hurts you, right? Because if you have a blind spot and your team is not comfortable speaking up and challenging you, it hurts you and it hurts the organization.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So those are a couple of things that I've seen going on, and then just actually calling people out in front of others. And so that's something that I really try not to do. And I learned very early on. I made some mistakes as a young leader where I had done that and gotten some direct feedback and realized that's not the right way to do it. Right? If somebody is doing something wrong or saying something wrong or behaving in a way that you don't think is appropriate, pulling them aside right afterwards, but doing it one-on-one rather than do it in a group is the right way to handle that.
Absolutely. Yes, I've observed that too, and it's very uncomfortable.
Yes.
Not just for the person, but even for people around that person.
Right.
It's uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah. It creates an intimidating environment, right? One which is not productive.
Right. I like that. Thank you. What would you describe as your style of leadership, and possibly a style of leadership that you admired before you became a great leader?
Yeah, so look, I think when I look at styles and I look at all the folks I've worked with, I've seen a number of different styles of leadership, and I don't look at one better than another, right?
Yeah.
I look at outcomes, right, and how people are able to motivate their folks to be successful at a mission, to be able to execute that vision. And I still go back to those traits that I talked about.
Yeah.
To me, those are the consistent factors that really make an effective leader.
Right. So really, people should just embrace their personality as it is, and just focus on those core, characteristics.
Right.
And just embrace who they are and work with those characteristics to have the outcome.
I agree, and look, and I also think like you're not going to be good at all of them, right? You know, those are the traits, and those, to me, when I look at all the leaders I've worked with and worked for that I thought were really, really effective, some were better than others at each one of those things.
Yep.
So a highly effective leader can do most of those, but they will spike at a couple and maybe not be as well as others. But the good leaders know that that's a deficit they have.
Yep.
And they make up for it, either through really trying to say, I need to be a better listener and really focusing on it, or bringing people around them who make up their team, who might spike in an area where they're not necessarily good.
Yeah, absolutely. Leveraging, delegating, influencing, and just a whole combination to get the job done.
And you said it earlier, influencing becomes more and more important the higher you get, right?
Yeah.
Because you have truly less control of a lot of things, and if you're going to help your people be successful, you need to help them navigate the organization, or you need to sometimes navigate it for them to put them in a position to be successful.
If you could list 3 things that you would say, someone listening and they're thinking, what do I do, what can I do now, today?
Yeah. So if I said, first of all, I would say, build your brand, right? Think about it. Network, right? Networking is really important. Network inside work and outside, but really build a network. Be patient, and learn, right? Continue to learn, listen. Those to me are the main ones. Ask for feedback. Ask how you're doing. Be honest about it. Be open to it. And then, take a chance sometimes.
Take a chance. Just don't let fear hold you back.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to fail, because you're gonna.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Do you have any favorite books that may have influenced you in a dramatic way, or?
So I read a lot of books on leadership. I read about good military leaders, because I do think some of the most effective leaders that I've met are in the intelligence community and are in the military or have been in the military. So anytime I can read about leaders in the military, there are some really good leaders, really good CEOs out there that have written books. So I tend to also read those books.
Okay, that's really good. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time, learned so much from you, and I'm sure the viewers are going to take that feedback and run with it.
Good. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you managed to get some useful takeaways that you can apply. For more episodes and updates, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Practical Pam, and directly on my website, practicalpam.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at practical.pam and on Facebook, Practical Pam.